Hey, Emma.
Yes, Madelyn.
What does the town crier say after all the town couples have done a dance in a circle around the town square?
I don't know. What does he say?
All ye world! Hello, and welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
I'm your world host, Madelyn. Like
I'm
Tilt-A-Whirl.
Trauma host, Emma.
Oh, wait.
I'm traumatized from that joke.
Somebody get a doctor's stat!
Why did they have to be going in a circle?
So they could whirl about.
Oh, whirl. I thought he was just saying all ye world.
No, that's why I was whirled. All ye whirled.
Okay.
Does that give it like another point?
No. I think that made it worse.
Great. Well, thanks for tuning into the show. This week, we are going to be talking about highly compatible games, Trauma Center and OlliOlli World.
The trauma center is where I go once I try to do an ollie.
That is, you know what? See, that would have been a good joke. Maybe. There was probably a joke there. Oh, well. So it goes. Next time.
Just saying, that's how they're connected. I get on a skateboard, I go to urgent care.
I'm so good at skateboarding, I didn't even think about that.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I have so much skateboarding experience. I'm so great at it.
Yeah.
My skateboarding experience is I walk through Washington Square Park. People are skateboarding. I go, these kids. But we won't start with my rivalry with the skateboarders in my old neighborhood. We'll leave that. We'll leave that for another episode, or the second half of the episode at least. Mm-hmm. Let's dig into Trauma Center. Boy, a game that you definitely have to Google as Trauma Center game.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, I made that mistake more than a few times.
I do know where my local urgent care is now.
I searched Trauma Center retrospective and got a lot of academic
articles. I searched
articles.
That too! There were definitely some scientific articles there. And statistics.
It's like, interesting. Probably not what I'm looking for.
A trauma center is a medical facility that you go to when you've experienced an acute injury. We're now a medical podcast.
No. Trauma Center is a series of games that were on the Nintendo DS and Wii, starting with Trauma Center Under the Knife on the DS in 2005 from Atlas, created by and worked on by a lot of people who are probably better known both then and now for the Megami Tensei series and spin-offs.
That's sort of true. Trauma Center was a hit. Trauma Center was a big hit. So maybe there was a period of 6 months where some of these people were better known for Trauma Center than, like, Persona.
Apparently it was more successful generally in the West than it was in Japan.
It was just weird for me to see that it's referred to in some places as, like, Atlas's first mainstream hit. Trauma Center.
I guess that makes sense, actually. If it was more successful in the West, Persona didn't really catch on until, like, 3-4, which I think were both after this, maybe.
Right. When Tokyo was invented.
Yes, and then Tokyo was invented with Persona 5, and it got very popular.
So, Trauma Center, I want to say it's sort of what it sounds like, but also it's sort of not. Right? Like, there's a portion of it that's what it sounds like, which is that Trauma Center is set in the near future, that's 2018, where medicine has advanced, but the population is freaking out because there's a man-made pandemic of a disease called guilt, which stands for gangliated eutrophin immunolatency toxin, which sounds
That does
very
sound like a
real.
real thing.
I guess so. Imagine if they had done COVID, though, as, like, super unusual... Yo. Sucky.
Soys?
No. Super unusual... Yo.
Sus?
Sucky.
Sucky. Oh,
I'm
got
not
it.
very good at this. I have to think a little harder, right? But, like, imagine if they had done something with that was, like, you know, boo.
Yeah.
Anyway, reading about Trauma Center is a series where it's like there's definitely some articles that are out there that are like, we should revive this. And I'm reading it and I'm like, do I want a game that's about pandemics? But anyway, in Trauma Center is part surgery sim, which is probably what you guessed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's also part visual novel. And it's got some sci-fi elements, which was apparently quite the relief to the development team. They were like, thank God we don't have to be super realistic. We don't have to do as much research. So in the original Trauma Center, Under the Knife, you play as Dr. Derek Stiles. That's right, Dr. DS, Dr. Stylus. Intentional, by the way.
I saw that name, I was like, my immediate thought, which was like a recess from like my younger days, was like, that's a Teen Wolf character. And I had to go look it up, and it is actually 2 separate Teen Wolf characters. It's not just one. There's a Derek and there's a Stiles. So,
No
fun facts from Emma's recesses of my unconscious mind today.
Were you expecting a Teen Wolf reference, listeners? I bet you weren't. Anyway, Dr. Stiles, Dr. DS, he's a surgeon, but he's also got the magical sci-fi power, the healing touch, which allows him to do super surgeon things.
This is because he's descended from the Greek god Asclepius, by the way.
Of course.
Just so you know.
I mean, I feel like that went without saying. What other reason would there be for someone to have a magical healing touch, other than to be descended from the Greek god of doctors?
I don't know.
Anyway, Dr. Stiles, he works with the, like, secret sort of medical research group, sort of anti-bioterrorism group, Caduceus, which is also a Greek thing. Isn't that the staff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the medical staff thing.
Yeah. And he's working with them to try to find a cure to guilt, which they eventually discover, was created by terrorists from a terrorist organization, right? And so over the course of the game, you do surgery stuff with the stylus, and also you do visual novel stuff with visual novel stuff.
I did, I guess light spoilers, but like out of context, so whatever. But I found it very funny.
How are you going to play this game? Right?
Well,
who has
people
a DS?
have DSs.
Yes, they do
still.
have DSs.
It's not that old. But I'm not even getting into the plot. Just like there's a prominent figure on like the bad guy's side that's named Adam, who's like, has created guilt. It's just good. I don't know. It brings me joy when things are so straightforward.
Why not, right?
Yeah.
So like in the gameplay, right? So like you're a surgeon, but you're like, I was assuming this was going to be kind of like Operation, right?
No.
And it's sort of like that, but it's not. All right, this is not a game that's like careful surgery exactly. This is a game that's like speedy surgery, which is not what you want from a doctor, I don't think.
No.
So, you use your stylus, you, like, treat tumors, you've got a scalpel, right? You can use a syringe, like, you have all sorts of, doctor stuff, doctor tools that you get to use in, like, treating patients as you go.
There are also some, like, one of the primary things you use is, like, antibiotic gel, which it seems like you just sort of, like, put it on things and it works.
Slap some cortisone on it.
Yeah, just slap some cortisone on your liver.
Neosporin. Cortisone is not antibiotic. Neosporin.
Put some Neosporin on your liver. That'll help.
Probably,
on your broken
right?
bone.
Couldn't hurt. And while you're doing that, you can trigger Healing Touch by drawing a star with your stylus, which is how real surgeons do it. And that sort of slows down time so you can do more things.
I'm sure surgeons would appreciate if they could invoke the devil, I guess.
I guess.
I don't think that's what you're doing in the game. That's just what I think of when the star. So that they could do surgery in a freeze time state. I don't know.
Well, why else would somebody pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for medical school if not to learn how to do that?
Exactly, yeah.
To be honest, what else could you possibly be learning?
Yeah. But yeah, it's apparently very hard. Actually. In terms, it's timed, right? So you only have a certain amount of time to do this, and often you have to do multiple things at once. As you're fixing something else might be happening as a result of something you did, or something might be getting worse, and so you have to patch that up and then go back to what you're doing. Or you might have to switch tools on the fly. So I read one retrospective that was I played it with 2 stylists. Like a surgeon,
Like a
right?
surgeon, yeah. It's a surgeon wouldn't use one hand.
So that you could do things better, by using just setting it in front of you and using 2 styluses to, do it, on the screen, which I thought was very funny, but also very cool. I don't know. The DS is such a cool system,
Well, you know what else is cool? If you perform an action for maximum points. Which is also how surgeons are rated in the real world, right? Yeah. As they do surgery, they are rated from bad to cool. Just very medically accurate.
Yeah.
So Trauma Center was a big success. It's a surprise big success. Like we said, it's kind of one of Atlas's first major mainstream successes, which is so weird, right? I can't even imagine. It's hard for me to imagine. Atlas is not a AAA studio, I guess, right? I don't really understand what AAA is. But it's hard for me to understand a studio of Atlas's size and now reputation even making a game like Trauma Center, let alone it being a big success.
It's really interesting, because I feel like Atlas has really come into the public perception with Persona 5.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, it is sort of focused in on its most popular series. But they used to make a bunch of stuff that they just haven't touched in a really long time. I mean, there are hundreds. I know. There's tens of Megami Tensei spin-offs besides Persona that are just sort of languishing in obscurity right now because they didn't happen to hit the wave of public interest, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just interesting. I don't know. I also feel like the kind of end of the handheld system, right? Or the end of the true handheld system definitely plays into that. It just feels like a game like Trauma Center. Now, I wouldn't be shocked to see a well-regarded indie game made kind of like this, right? But I would never expect a real studio, quote unquote, to make a game nearly this intentionally cheesy and over the top, but also on one hand, this is another game where I read the reviews and I was like, oh, that's so funny that they're a medical game, weird. Just what did I play last week? Ghost Trick,
yeah.
And there were some comparisons to Ace Attorney. Again, they were like, it's weird, like Ace Attorney.
It does structurally remind me of Ace Attorney in some ways.
No, I think that's a fair comparison. More what I'm getting at is I had that reaction again of, what's so weird about this? Like a game about surgery that seems... There were even games about surgery before this game came out.
Yeah.
Right?
I actually think it's really interesting, and I was thinking about this And then I was like, I'm thinking too hard about this. But, like, in
I
terms
was like,
of, like,
I can spend exactly 15 minutes preparing for the podcast, and that's it. 15 brain cells.
I was just saying, like, the most popular TV genres, like, the basis of cable TV is, like, cop dramas and medical dramas, right?
The basis of network TV, frankly. Not even cable TV.
And that just, both of those don't really exist in games. Like, you'd think there would be, I mean, I don't really want more cop games, but you'd think there'd be more cop games, but we just have military games, I guess.
Well, medical soaps are for women. I thought about this too.
True, yeah.
I was like, okay, they say this game is inspired by ER and Chicago Hope and like those big 90s medical soaps, right? And at first I had the same reaction of, oh, that is funny that, obviously Grey's Anatomy is on its like 50th season. They literally won't let her go. Every time renewal comes up, Ellen, I can't remember her last name, but who plays Meredith, is like, I don't really want to do this anymore, but they pay me a lot of money. So, like, I'll keep doing it. It's like, good for you, girl.
Yeah.
But anyway, but then thinking about it, I was like, okay, like, those shows are usually for women, right? So I understand why the gaming industry has been like, that's for girls, and not done it. Also, because, like, I'm sure, like, I read a little bit about how they had to think really hard about how realistic they wanted, even, like, the imagery of it to be. And, yeah, that's a fine line to walk, especially in the kind of realism or die in climate that can sometimes pervade games.
I mean, unless you're making, like, a really specific simulator, this is not really an example to make, like, an incredibly realistic surgery sim.
Oh, no. Absolutely.
I don't really want those.
But yeah, I am surprised, I mean, and you bringing it up, it does seem like there should be more cop games. I guess that's because in those games, like, you have a gun, but you probably shouldn't be shooting it all the time, and that's, like, hard. Yeah.
Because I was like, well, there's like, L.A. Noire, and then it's like, I couldn't think of any others that was really, like a, like a simulation.
Like a CSI.
Yeah.
Because that would be an adventure game, right? If you were really going to capture what those TV shows are, it would be an adventure game, and adventure games are dead, so.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's also Disco Elysium, which isn't really
Well, I thought about that, but that seems like
not really a CSI. I guess the other thing is, like, in terms of, like, actually doing, like, the surgery stuff, like, the DS is very much a system that is friendly to allowing that sort of game design.
Yeah, they were inspired by these PC games, and I think the reason that they made Trauma Center was because the DS made it seem possible to do. Like, it wasn't going to be something that they wanted to make on a console.
Yeah. And even the Wii, they made a
Wii Make.
A Wii Make. And then the most recent release, Trauma Team from 2010. Were on the Wii, which also is if any console is going to be friendly to this sort of game, it's the Wii, I guess.
Except it gave people, like, wrist injuries. One of the reviews of the Wii Make was like, my hands hurt so bad.
Apparently Trauma Team, like, lowered the difficulty away from, like, its extremely hard predecessors. I wonder if it's partially because so many people were like, ow. They're like, okay, maybe this doesn't work as well with the Wiimote, to simplify it a little bit. But now, like, you can't, you could do it on the, the standard console with the controller, but it's not quite friendly to it.
You don't feel like you are saying, scalpel.
You don't get to hold the two styluses and the styli and be a surgeon.
Or the Wiimote.
I bet you could do something with, like, 2 analog sticks.
Yeah, maybe, but I just feel like it doesn't feel quite the same. It doesn't feel quite like when you imagine being a surgeon, you imagine yourself holding, I try not to imagine this too much, I'm a little too squeamish, but, like, if you were to imagine yourself being a surgeon, you would imagine yourself holding the scalpel And that feels more like a stylus than it does like an analog stick. Not to say you couldn't do it. In the remake, which by the way is called Trauma Center Second Opinion.
It's very funny.
I think it's great. They missed an opportunity to make it like re-traumatized or something. But they had a new doctor character who at one point goes by the codename Weaver, which is also apparently an intentional wee pun. It's just like, how could I get on this team? Who's gonna hire me to do that? I could do that.
They all have great names, which is another way that it reminds me a little bit of Ace Attorney. Like, less directly punny, but they all have just really great, like, medical drama names. I don't know.
Yeah. So they made these pretty much yearly, or at least, remakes of them yearly from 2005 to 2010. So, right, there's the original, Under the Knife, there's Second Opinion on the Wii, there's New Blood, which was like 2007 on the DS, Under the Knife 2, and then, as Emma mentioned, Trauma Team, which brought it back to the Wii, but also kind of expanded the gameplay quite a bit.
Yeah.
In Trauma Team, instead of it playing as 1 or 2 surgeons, you play as 6 different medical professionals. So in addition to doing surgery, you're also doing emergency medicine and orthopedics and forensic medicine and lots more. So I saw a lot of kind of like retrospectives on it that were like, this was a cool game, this was good, but it didn't sell well. And I wonder if it was the death of the series. It always fascinates me when it's like, here is something that was a yearly release for like 5 or 6 years, and now no more.
Yeah.
I mean,
the churn of time.
That's that's economics, baby. I know, but still, I don't know. Does Trauma Center want to be revived, or are we all too traumatized from the past 2 years for medical games for a while?
Well, Trauma Team is not about a plague, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
so.
Several of the other games are about viruses. It said that the guilt strains are named with Greek words, and I was like, ooh, ha ha ha. Ho, ho, ho.
But I don't know. They're making another Soul Hackers. I know that's Persona related, so maybe it feels safer. But, what's his name? Hashino is not on. He's left Persona. Maybe he'll make another Trauma Team.
They could have the hot doctor from Persona 5, like, spin off and do this, right?
Yeah, there you go. There's your selling point.
Atlas, I'm handing this to you.
Trauma Center, hot doctor.
Trauma Center Tokyo. Trauma Center, it's not a virus, we promise. Trauma Center Unmasked.
No, don't call it that.
I also liked, like, one other thing I liked in reading about this, there was one review that was like, wow, the idea you could slice someone open in a game to heal them. Revolutionary. I was like, okay.
Oh, no. Oh, gosh.
Thanks for that take. They liked the game. I was just like, oh, man.
Well, shall we move on to the healing power of skateboards?
The healing power of rad tricks.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, it's OlliOlli World. So OlliOlli World is a sports game, sort of. Really more of a 2D skateboarding platformer from Roll7. It's the latest entry in the OlliOlli series, featuring OlliOlli and OlliOlli 2. I just like saying OlliOlli.
OlliOlli World is pretty distinctly different from what I saw of the previous 2 entries.
Yes. Is this going to be, like, are you going to be able to say this game out loud? Am I allowed to talk about your dog on the show? Or is she...
My
is
dog?
she
I've talked about my dog on the show. She's behind me.
I just wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if she's keeping her personal life off the air. Because when you say OlliOlli, does she get confused?
OlliOlli. No.
Oh, wow. I thought she opened her eye a little wider.
I think that's the standard reaction to me making a noise in her direction, not a response.
Well, fair enough. So in OlliOlli World, it's just fun to say, you are a boarder in Radlandia, where you are trying, as my notes say, it looks like I was trying to type trying to become. Instead I wrote trying got become, which feels very appropriate. You're trying to become the skate wizard, who's the bridge between normal skaters down in Radlandia and the skate gods, with a Z, who are in Nirvana. And you're training with the previous skate wizard who's retiring, Chiffon, and her friends, including a guy you just called Dad, and Gnarly Mike, and the other one, whose name I can't remember, starts with an S.
Good crew.
Yeah, they are a good crew. They're very supportive. They're like, you're great at skateboarding to me, even though I wipe out like 20 times. They're like, you're great at this. You're natural. And I'm like, thanks. So you're in this very fun and colorful world, and you've got to go to these 5 regions of Radlandia to impress the skate gods and claim your place as the skate wizard. And do some sick tricks.
So some of the ways that OlliOlli World is different from previous installments is, one, it has a story of any sort. It seems to be the case of like an interconnected story of like you have a campaign of some sort. It's hand-drawn in sort of what's hand-drawn style, I guess. Sure. Whereas the previous ones have been pixel art. And just the general vibe, like just looking at a picture of OlliOlli World and OlliOlli, you get a sense of like general vibe is pretty different. It is also a lot friendlier to new players. Apparently OlliOlli required like great precision and like incredible skills or whatever. And this one is a little bit slower to like introduce how things work. And a little bit more friendly. Like if you land like the one review I saw was like, if you land your board sideways, right, it'll just correct it for you and it won't wipe you out. Where in previous installments you would have fallen over, because you would if you were actually on a skateboard and landed sideways. But they prioritize a little bit more of like the feeling good versus like the technical skill in this one, was my impression.
Yeah, there's a good quote from an interview with Polygon from the creative director, John Ribbons. He says, in previous OlliOlli games, people really loved the mechanics, but we saw that only a tiny fraction of players ever got beyond the first area of the game. And that was kind of heartbreaking after we'd spent so long setting up all these cool challenges later on. Which I feel like really sums it up.
Yeah.
That's just like, that's tough, right? That must be really tough to be like, oh, our game is too hard.
Yeah. I think I did watch some reviews of this that's just talking about, it's like they lowered the floor, but they didn't really lower the ceiling. So there's still like rewarding success and really hard challenges for people who really want to get into it. But also you don't have to be a master at it to just complete the levels as you go.
Yeah, this is a trend in difficulty in games that I really like. This idea that you don't even necessarily need to have difficulty modes, right? This game does not have a difficulty mode, but that you can create kind of different paths for different players who want to play in different ways. The only problem, of course, is that everybody gets to say they beat the game. And some people don't like that. But if you're not that kind of person, then I think it's a really cool, and I imagine it's really challenging to do, but I think it's a really cool way to think about designing games that I feel like you see more in level-based, challengey games like this, where you have the option to play it kind of at the level of difficulty that you want to pursue without it necessarily being like, you're playing with baby hands on the baby level.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, OlliOlli World is unsurprisingly the game that I played this week, given that Trauma Center is exclusively on the Nintendo DS and the Wii, and I have access to neither of those things. So I've played all of the first world. I'm very close to being done with the second world now too. We're really vibing with OlliOlli World here. It's good, as you've heard if you've listened to the latest, I guess not the latest side quest, but the latest 6-week side quest. Clickbait Boyfriend and I had been playing all together Too Much Binding of Isaac. And OlliOlli World, I think, is going to help us kind of wean off of that. It helps that we've both beaten Mega Satan now, so we can kind of say, like, okay, we've done it.
Good.
So it, as often happens, man, I can't play a game by myself, right? I start a game, Clickbait Boyfriend's like, that looks fun. Can I try it? He recently, by the way, I should throw this anecdote in. He recently listened to our Jack and Daxter podcast, wherein I apparently say something of comparing him to Daxter. And like it's like living with Daxter. And then I say, oh man, when Clickbait Boyfriend listens to this in 6 months, he's not gonna love this. And he's like, here I am, 10 months later.
You reaping and you sowing, right?
So anyway, here I am now being like, yeah, whenever I play a game that looks fun, he's like, can I try?
Yeah.
But OlliOlli World is definitely, I think, in a less horrifying way, perhaps, than Super Monkey Ball, but it's scratching that Super Monkey Ball itch. In that it's like a fun game to trade off on. It's a fun game to watch, and you know me. If there are checkbox challenges, I gotta do them.
Yeah,
you played Overcooked with me.
It does have a lot of challenges for you to check off, which does seem like, yes, that does feed your little gremlin in your brain.
Check the things off. But it's fun, and even those challenges are, like, they're definitely more challenging than just beating the level, or even sometimes more challenging than just beating the level without wiping out at all. But we have not yet, and granted, I'm only approaching like 40% of the way through the game, right? So, grain of salt. But we've not yet encountered any that have come even close to rivaling some of the super, like, we spent sometimes days trying to beat a level of Super Monkey Ball, right? Here it's like, okay, there have been a few challenges we've had to try for like 20 minutes before we got it. Not levels where we had to try for that long to finish, just like, don't pop any of the inflatable whales, or hit all the seagulls, or that kind of thing. So it's really fun. I think it's a lot of fun. It's, you know, it's been a long time since I've played any of the like actually skater games, and it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like Disney Skate Adventure, or the more relatable reference, it doesn't feel like Tony Hawk. But it's like a fun platforming challenge. And even though sometimes things can be frustrating and you kind of really have to hit the jump at the exact right moment, it doesn't feel like you're doing anything that differently. It blows really fast. When you die, you like respawn at the checkpoint right away, which is always a big thing for me. I don't like big loading screens or like being really punished for dying. Mm-hmm. So it's been fun. I'm enjoying it. I think we'll play all of it. Another game to add to my Talk This Games pile that I will just never wade through.
A rather specific thing to point out, but when I was watching gameplay of it, the sound design felt very satisfying to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just the sounds of going on, like, different materials, or the jump and the landing. I don't know. I was listening to it. I was like, oh, yeah.
Skateboarding. Yeah, boarding. Yeah. There's also a really good character creator.
Yes. Clickbait Boyfriend graced me with a photo of your creation, which was very you. Think? So.
What is that supposed to mean?
It's a compliment. It was very you.
You're gonna have to explain that. Describe the character for the listeners.
It just really, like, encompassed your vibe, I think.
Just because the character was wearing, like, 3 different patterns?
Yes. And the mustache, paired with the high ponytail.
Yeah, I thought the big ponytail mustache is really distinctive.
So yeah, it was just the mishmash of patterns, the high ponytail mustache. I felt that it really was Madelyn.
Good, because yeah,
not that it looks like you, but just that it's your vibe is what I'm saying.
See, that's what I decided to go for. I was like, instead of trying to do the character that looks a lot like me, which I think I could have done, I also like to wear bold patterns that feature dogs on them. So I could have done it. But I don't skateboard, and I wanted a more rad. I'm not very rad. So I wanted radder energy than that. I think I succeeded. But yeah, fun character creator, a lot of different hair options, a lot of and you continue to unlock more. I really should go back and put my character in some new clothes, but I'm attached to my look. But I should go back and put my character in some new clothes, because you unlock more and more and more and more as you go along, and you beat levels. But I wasn't really like expecting to do too much character creating at the beginning, which was dumb. Of course there was going to be a character creator. And it was good. I liked it. So I support that. Something else interesting from that interview that the creative director noted was that skate games, and this made me think particularly of, I remember when we did our episode on Tony Hawk Pro Skater, like that game, or the remade game came out like right as the pandemic was starting, right? And so it was the first game to even like to kind of reference that, and a lot of reviews were like, oh, it finally makes a lot of sense why Tony Hawk is skateboarding around this incredibly empty cityscape, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what it feels like. And that is what it felt like here. I mean, it didn't feel like Tony Hawk. I'm sorry. I didn't feel like Tony Hawk when I was living in New York from like March through May 2020, to be clear. Yeah. I mean, maybe I did. He seems like a pretty normal guy. But anyway, the point being, OlliOlli World kind of consciously is not that. So many skate games are just kind of by default set in relatively empty urban landscapes, because like that's where people skate, right? Or that's where people dream of skating. But OlliOlli World is very bright, very colorful, sort of full of stuff happening in the background, and full of sort of whimsical characters in a way that feels intentionally counter to what these games often are. It doesn't have to be like, this is a game for teenage boys, so nothing can be pink.
It does seem like, and it's like, it's these sorts of games where I'm like, maybe skateboarding is cool, right? Because it feels like it gets like the vibe of skateboarding, you know, like the romanticized idea of skateboarding, in that it's sort of this freeing, like colorful, like free skating experience, you know, when a lot of it is actually just falling on your face. But I feel like it's like Tony Hawk is maybe the more like accurate skating experience, but OlliOlli World is like what you want skating to be, right?
Let's be clear that Tony Hawk is not an especially accurate skating experience either, at least based on the skill level that I have seen in New York City parks.
Sure, yes.
I'm not sure if many of these people have ever landed a trick.
How about Tony Hawk is like a more accurate depiction of someone who is very good at skating? How about that?
Yes, that seems right. I think about this sometimes because growing up with Disney Skate Adventure and any skateboarding game really made me think like, oh, an ollie is really easy. An ollie, right, where you flip the board and you land on it. Like that's like the absolute most boring basic trick that you can do in any of these games. Right? Super boring, doesn't get you any points, probably can't even really chain it to anything, whatever. I watch these real life people trying to do ollies in the park, and it has really changed my perspective on the realism of these games. It's just like, wow, No one can do this. This is hard.
Listen, I probably couldn't even stand on a skateboard, so being able to even attempt an ollie is far beyond my reach, I think.
Well, see, then you should play this game. It'll make you feel like flying and free.
Very sure.
Swooshing around. It does feel really good when you're kind of like landing, long combos and grinding on and on and on. It's like, yeah, look at me, let's go. I do feel like a bro.
Mm-hmm.
So, are you ready for the impossible mashup?
I'm ready.
You have to do
there's a skateboarding pandemic in the city. Everybody's skateboarding, even though they're bad at it. They keep falling down and breaking their bones, and you have to fix as many of them as you can within a certain time limit.
How do I cure the skateboarding pandemic, though?
But in the VN cutscenes in between.
Okay, you're right.
As the story goes on, like, more and more of your nurses and assistants fall to, like, the skateboarding virus. Yeah. So you get, like, less and less help as you keep going, which is how, like, the difficulty level ramps up.
Sure.
And eventually you find, like, the patient zero, the skate king.
Tony Hawk.
Not Tony Hawk.
Anthony Falcon.
Sure. And you fix him and discover the cure to the skateboarding disease, and then everybody goes back to normal.
It's a little ridiculous, which I'll say is perfectly in keeping with Trauma Center and OlliOlli World. I'm just not sure it's who's the audience for this? I feel like
very
skateboarding fans
specifically those incredibly entitled, people who go up to skateboarders and tell them to stop.
Those people don't play video games, Emma. I'll be honest. It's not a
specifically my dog would like to eradicate skateboarding from the world, I'm pretty sure.
Molly Wally World.
It's Molly Wally World. The world without skateboards.
No, I was thinking of more of like a cells at work kind of vibe.
Okay.
Wherein, I don't know if you're like a tiny doctor or if you are literally like a white blood cell or something, but you need to, maintain equilibrium in the body and deal with injuries and that kind of thing by pulling sick moves on the liver and stuff.
Or you could be the skateboard nurse.
Okay.
There's a new initiative, like Phoenix Wright style, like all surgeries must be done within this certain amount of time, right? And so we've got multiple surgeries ongoing, and there's not enough nurses to cover them all. So every time one of the surgeons calls for you, you have to get on your skateboard and skate your way over there and do a cool trick as you give them what they're asking for, and then skate back to the other room and do a cool trick and hand them the scalpel.
This is pretty there's a dystopian undertone to this, right?
Yeah.
A commentary on understaffing in hospitals that I like. I'm not sure I get how the tricks come in.
It if you do enough cool tricks, it inspires the staff. Right? So in addition to making sure that none of the surgeries fail, right? There's a morale meter, right? Among the staff in general, and by doing more cool tricks, you boost the morale meter, and the lower it is, the more likely it is that surgeons are going to make mistakes, and that will make it harder to get from one place to the other.
But then there are areas in the hospital where you can't, you need to make a choice, right? You could do tricks because you need to raise morale, but also the on-call people are sleeping, so if you do tricks, you're gonna wake them up.
Yeah, I think there could be some trap zones. Yeah.
Interesting.
And of course, if you wipe out, morale goes down, way down, right?
Right. Right.
Oh god, another patient to treat.
Yeah.
skateboarding nurse has gone down.
What's this? Is there a story element to this? Both these games have kind of silly stories, so it feels like there's got to be something.
Well, you're the skateboarding nurse, right? And, you know, you've been, like, specifically hired because of your skills, I guess.
Right, of course.
And maybe there's just, like, a new challenge that, like, the skateboarding nurse has to overcome every time. Like maybe you have to, Grey's Anatomy style, you have to, like, rescue a heart from a dog and, like, bring it back.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's definitely got to be that kind of... The car is falling off the cliff, and you've got to do a sick
grind.
Sick grind.
Before it falls.
I like that. I like that there could be missions that are, like, more of, like, an emergency response. Like, usually you're skateboarding through the hospital, but sometimes, like, you're called across town.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what the overarching story would be. Maybe you're trying to become skateboard head nurse or something.
The story needs to be bigger. You know what I mean? Like, the Trauma Center is about saving the world from a global pandemic. Skate world, OlliOlli world.
Okay, you give me something.
OlliOlli world is about, like, literally becoming a skateboarding god. Like, just becoming head nurse seems like... Okay.
I've done the character design. What is the concept here for skateboard nurse?
Okay. So the concept here for skateboard nurse is that... I'm trying to decide, like, should there be, like, a running, you know, are the people getting injured for a particular reason, or is that just sort of, like, tangential? It feels like there's got to be some kind of, like, driving plot behind that. So as the
maybe there's, like, a bad, like, scooter gang in the city.
Ooh.
That's, like, causing trouble. But maybe there's, like, a twist at the end where it's actually not the scooter gang, but, like the hospital higher-ups.
Yeah, I see that. I don't know if I love scooters. Oh, but you're thinking of, like, razor scooters.
Yeah.
Right? I was thinking of, like, motor scooters.
They could be rollerblades, too. Something that's not skateboards, you know?
You're right. We can set up, like, a West Side Story, Romeo and Juliet situation. Maybe without a romance, right? But, like, that kind of, like, warring factions in the city. So it's like... Well, you could also have it be, you know, if we want to do commentary on transportation, accessibility, right? It could be the car people versus the wheels people. But I'm trying to figure out something where it feels like the skateboard would be, like, the in-between. Like, the neutral.
I don't know.
Maybe it's, like, rollerblades and scooters. And you're the skateboarding nurse.
Right.
You don't take a side, right? But it's discovered that, yeah, actually, in the end, these groups they actually didn't have anything against each other. Their conflict wasn't about anything real. It was instead something that the hospital higher-ups had been, like, feeding to enrich their coffers from the insurance money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty dark.
And then you do a sick kickflip into their face at the end.
Boom! Better see a doctor.
Oh, that's good. Then credits roll, right?
What's the name of the game?
You should see a nurse for that. Dun dun, skateboard nurse, created by.
Can't it be something like The Daily Grind or I don't know.
I'm sure we don't have to call it skateboard nurse. No,
we do.
Not...
The skateboard nurse : what?
Yeah, something grind. That's good, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like the work day, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Nice. We're onto something here, I think. Atlas.
Yeah, I'd play it.
Go.
I'd play skateboard nurse.
Atlas, hot doctor can be a skateboard nurse. That'd be fine.
Yeah.
Well, listeners, are you eagerly anticipating the release of Skateboard Nurse Rise and Grind? Did you play Trauma Center? If you did or if you didn't, would you want to play it with one stylus or two? Or are you a Wiimote kind of person? Are you have you ever seen someone in real life land a skateboarding trick? Other than Tony Hawk?
You probably saw him on TV too, not in real life.
In person. Unless you saw Tony Hawk in person, that does not count. If you ever seen someone land a skateboarding trick. If you have answers to any of those things, or anything else, or just thoughts about the show, you should hit us up on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Talk This Podcast. You can also visit our website, www.talkthispodcast.com, where you can learn all about the show, check out the games in the hat Emma is about to pull from, and read our blog, featuring long-running series Click with Boyfriend and Split Screen, and Emma's March blog.
Mm-hmm.
So, lots of good stuff there. Check it out. But most importantly, if you like the show, you should subscribe so you never miss an episode on Sundays at noon Eastern. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, Pandora Podcasts online and on the app, Overcast, Podcasts, really anywhere that you can find podcasts. Wherever you found Talk This today, you can find Talk This. Next week is a side quest where it'll be Emma's turn to choose a game's topic for us to discuss. Any hints? Anything
I don't know yet. I'm still thinking about it.
We'll look forward to the surprise side quest as usual. But Emma, in 2 weeks, what's on the agenda?
For our old game, we are going to be talking about American McGee's Alice.
Cool.
And for our new game, we're going to be talking about 12 Minutes. So get excited!
I'm not gonna play it.
You don't have to play it. You can play American McGee's Alice if you want to.
Can I? Is that on something that I can play it on?
I think it is both on Mac and PS3. So you don't have to though. Don't feel obligated.
I'm pretty committed, right? Okay, it was released digitally on the PlayStation 3. I will have to buy myself a PlayStation gift card to buy it on the PS3, but I could.
You don't have to add any more games to your pile. Take a week break or something.
No!
Watch a playthrough of 12 minutes. I feel like that's enough suffering for the podcast,
Maybe that's what I'll do. It does say it's on Mac, although a lot of Mac games are obsolete now, so...
So look forward to that. It'll be a good one.
Uh-huh. It'll be great. No, it will. It'll be a good episode. Well, that's it for our show. Emma, do you have a rad sign-off for this week?
This week, I hope that you require no services from the skateboard nurse.